Today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026. The time is 7:02 p.m. Eastern. Welcome to Geopolitical Updates from AGI Era. Tensions remain acutely high in Eastern Europe as trilateral talks between Kyiv, Moscow, and Washington concluded with a palpable sense of apprehension. While billed as a crucial opportunity to de-escalate the protracted conflict, the preliminary assessments suggest very little, if any, substantive progress was achieved. United States President Donald Trump has actively advocated for a swift resolution to the conflict, yet the fundamental disagreements between Russia and Ukraine appear entrenched, creating a complex diplomatic landscape. The core issues, particularly concerning territorial integrity and security guarantees, continue to represent significant impediments to any breakthrough. This latest round of discussions highlights the persistent chasm between the warring parties and their international facilitators, casting a long shadow over the prospects for an imminent peace. The very act of convening was significant, marking the first direct engagement of this format since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but the low expectations that preceded the meetings seem to have been largely met. Turning our attention to the Middle East, a disturbing report from the British Broadcasting Corporation has shed light on alleged secret prisons operated by the United Arab Emirates in Yemen. The investigation included eyewitness accounts from former detainees who described harrowing conditions and severe abuses within these facilities. Some individuals reported being held for many months without contact with their families or access to legal representation. These allegations, if substantiated, raise serious questions about the conduct of foreign powers involved in the Yemeni civil conflict and their adherence to international humanitarian law. Efforts to obtain immediate corroborating or contrasting accounts from regional news outlets like Al Jazeera and Al Monitor for this specific development were unsuccessful, as those sources did not provide corresponding content within the last 24 hours for the relevant timeframe. In a separate development in Syria, a significant shift in control has been observed in the country's northeast. The Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, a Kurdish-led military alliance, have undertaken a rapid rollback, resulting in the most substantial change of territorial authority since the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. This strategic redeployment by the SDF is reshaping the geopolitical map of the region, potentially creating new vacuums or opportunities for other actors to assert influence. The long-term implications for regional stability, the safety of civilian populations, and the intricate web of alliances remain uncertain. Again, attempts to secure additional perspectives from Al Jazeera and Al Monitor on this specific development did not yield content in the past 24 hours. Moving to the North Atlantic, Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen has made a prominent visit to Greenland. This trip comes amidst weeks of heightened tension following statements from U.S. President Donald Trump, who publicly entertained the idea of potentially taking control of the autonomous territory. Greenland, a vast island with significant, yet largely untapped, rare earth mineral deposits and other natural resources, has become a point of strategic interest. Prime Minister Frederiksen's visit is being interpreted as a clear demonstration of Danish sovereignty and a show of support for Greenland's self-governance in the face of these external pressures. In a significant diplomatic move, President Trump has rescinded Canada's invitation to the newly formed Board of Peace. The decision was announced without a specific reason provided by the U.S. administration. This withdrawal follows recent public statements from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who had previously issued warnings about a potential rupture within the U.S.-led global order. The implications of this move for future international cooperation and the existing alliances within North America will be closely scrutinized. Across the globe in Iran, eyewitness accounts from a former resident describe intense scenes of chaos and violence during recent protests. The individual, who has since departed the country, reported seeing security forces opening fire in her hometown, with blood evident on the streets. These reports highlight the severe measures being employed by Iranian authorities to suppress dissent and underscore the ongoing internal struggles facing the nation amidst widespread public discontent. Lastly, Prince Harry has spoken out regarding the sacrifices made by NATO troops in Afghanistan, emphasizing that their service deserves profound respect. His comments come in the context of recent discussions surrounding the legacy of the conflict and the contributions of various international forces, including those from the US, the UK, Canada, and Denmark. These nations all had personnel engaged in some of the toughest fighting during the lengthy engagement. Our primary focus today remains on the delicate and highly anticipated trilateral talks concerning Ukraine, involving representatives from Kyiv, Moscow, and Washington. The British Broadcasting Corporation reported on the high stakes involved, yet simultaneously tempered expectations for any immediate, significant breakthroughs. This first direct engagement of the three parties since the full-scale invasion of 2022 presented a crucial, albeit fragile, diplomatic window. The persistent chasm between Russia and Ukraine over fundamental issues such as territorial integrity, specifically the status of Crimea and the Donbas region, and Ukraine's prospective alignment with Western security architectures like NATO, continues to be the primary obstacle. From the perspective presented by the BBC, President Trump's stated desire for a rapid peace deal injected a level of urgency, but it appears insufficient to overcome these deeply embedded disagreements. The lack of detailed regional analysis from sources like Al Jazeera and Al Monitor on this particular day prevents a comparative assessment of nuances that might emerge from Middle Eastern or Global South perspectives, which often highlight different motivations or impacts of such global events. The strategic "so what" of these stalled talks is multifaceted. Economically, the continuation of the conflict perpetuates global supply chain disruptions, particularly impacting energy and agricultural markets. Europe, in particular, faces ongoing inflationary pressures and energy insecurity, which could worsen as winter progresses. The lack of a clear path to peace means sustained military expenditures for NATO members and donor nations, diverting resources that could otherwise address domestic economic challenges or global development initiatives. For Ukraine, the economic devastation continues unabated, with critical infrastructure damaged and significant capital flight. In terms of power dynamics, the failure to achieve a diplomatic breakthrough reinforces a perception of a hardened geopolitical stalemate. It indicates that neither side feels sufficient pressure to concede on core demands, suggesting a prolonged conflict that will continue to test the resolve and resources of all parties involved. For Russia, the absence of a negotiated settlement allows it to continue its military objectives, albeit at a high cost, while attempting to erode Western unity and commitment. Conversely, for Ukraine and its Western allies, the talks underscore the imperative of maintaining robust military and financial support to prevent further territorial losses. The long-term strategic consequences are particularly concerning. A drawn-out conflict risks further destabilizing Eastern Europe, potentially drawing in additional regional actors, or escalating through miscalculation. It also has profound implications for the future of international law and the principle of sovereign territorial integrity. If a lasting resolution isn't found, it could embolden other revisionist powers to challenge existing borders, creating a more unpredictable and dangerous global security environment. The role of the U.S. as a key facilitator and an advocate for peace is also under scrutiny. Its ability to broker a deal will either affirm its global leadership in conflict resolution or highlight the limitations of its diplomatic leverage when faced with determined adversaries. The absence of a pathway to peace means that the military option remains paramount, underscoring the ongoing human cost and regional instability. In summary, today's geopolitical landscape is marked by ongoing diplomatic struggles over Ukraine, serious allegations of human rights abuses in Yemen, and significant territorial shifts in Syria. These developments collectively underscore the persistent challenges to global stability. For our watch list in the next 24 hours, we'll be monitoring any official statements following the Ukraine talks for subtle shifts in negotiating positions, specifically looking for any indication of willingness from either Russia or Ukraine to engage on previously non-negotiable points. Additionally, we'll be observing any international responses or investigations initiated in light of the detailed allegations regarding the UAE-run prisons in Yemen, focusing on whether international bodies or humanitarian organizations will gain access to these sites for independent verification.